Mr. Windychew and Miss Wavychew, a peculiar pair of Pikachu that appear in the first trailer for Pokémon Winds and Waves. Could they perhaps be hinting at the new regional gimmick? Or are these two actually this region's legendaries in disguise? Or maybe they really are just a swinger couple looking to buy you a drink. Today we're going to dive into these and many more theories that have surfaced since the first Pokémon Winds and Waves trailer. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Pokémon Gen 10 news and theories, and let's get right into it by debunking one popular theory I've seen floating around. Both in their cutscene appearance here at the start of the Winds and Waves trailer and in his official art, Mr. Wavychew seems to have a very peculiar pendant dangling from his tail. Many fans have been comparing this pendant's shape to the symbol that appears on the Japanese logos for Pokémon Winds and Waves. However, these two are simply not the same logo at all. And we'll get more into what I believe that symbol is later, but right now, focusing on the shape of Mr. Windychew's pendant, it actually perfectly matches up with the symbol or logo seen on the backpack of Pokémon Winds protagonist. And similarly, you can see with Mrs. Wavychew, her hat matches exactly with the Pokémon Waves protagonist hat. Originally, I thought that pretty much confirmed these symbols are some kind of logo representing the hotel or resort that we see later in the trailer, which potentially changes based on whether you're playing Pokémon Winds or Pokémon Waves. But rewatching the trailer, I noticed this other logo in the back that definitely looks like it's the entrance to said hotel. So now I'm leaning more towards this being the hotel's logo and the one seen on the protagonist's hat and backpack more likely being some kind of tourism company or conservation organization that we join in this game, with Mr. Windychew and Miss Wavychew potentially being our bosses or just showing us the ropes at the beginning of the game. Now, another theory I've seen floating around concerning these very same logos is that they might be related to the legendary Pokémon. Towards the end of the trailer, we see this cloud that's definitely been the most talked about aspect of the Winds and Waves trailer, particularly because it looks like it morphs into a different shape. This, I can actually see a little more of a resemblance, especially with the shape here. Not to mention the symbols themselves clearly represent winds, you can see the little swirl, and waves. You can even think of the circle as like the sun rising above the horizon. I'm a little conflicted on this one. It could just be the angle because, you know, the camera is moving, so maybe the cloud, obviously it's like a 3D shape, right? So the perspective at which you look at it from the shape of the cloud could change. But regardless, it does seem like it was intentional. So it's led many to theorize that maybe these are the two different legendaries. Personally, I think it'd be a little lame if we got two snake or serpentine Pokemon. But it's kind of been a trend with the last few games. Of course, Sword and Shield had two wolves, Scarlet and Violet had two lizards. But even though snakes aren't typically found in the sky unless you're Samuel L. Jackson, I can definitely imagine a sky snake of some sort. I mean, just imagining a snake flying around in the sky, it weirdly makes sense. So could these actually be the two different legendaries? We have a sea and a sky snake? Only time will tell. I know it's kind of lame to end it that way. But honestly, these two shapes do seem distinct enough, where if they were two different Pokemon, like I could even see this one having little fangs right here and a bit more of a stubby body. But the legendaries of this new region actually leads into our next theory, perhaps the most popular one. Mr. Windychew and Miss Wavychew are literally the legendaries in disguise. I'm not 100% sure where this theory originated, but I think it's related to some of the leaks, so little spoiler warning in case you don't want to know anything about the leaks. Actually, these are from July 2021, so almost 5 years old at this point, and they concern some of the story and narrative of the game, so very likely changed, reworked, or completely discarded in later stages. Now, when it comes to the box legendaries or main legendaries that appear on the covers of the games, for Pokémon Winds, we have a Storm legendary, which will supposedly be an Elder Guardian figure residing on an isolated storm-covered island. It guides humans and Pokémon through the power of wind and accepts only those who have properly raised the seed Pokémon. I don't even know if I want to talk about the seed Pokémon. So the Wave legendary, a counterpart elder figure living on a remote island surrounded by powerful seas. It embodies balance and guidance through the force of waves and similarly judges the worthiness of the player. Both are described as elderly guardian figures, and when I first read this, I didn't really take it literally, like the legendaries are going to appear as two old people disguised. More so that their design kind of gives elderly, wise hermit. Kind of like the old dragons in The Legend of Zelda. And weirdly enough, that sort of fits with the whole serpent thematic that we see in the trailer. What you may have noticed from these leaks is that they apparently reside on two different islands, one being storm-covered, the other surrounded by powerful seas, not inside of a cloud like we see in the trailer, which is what makes me think this cloud here isn't actually related to the legendary Pokemon at all. But first, going back to the Pikachus being the legendaries, I don't really get elderly from them. To be honest, they look very youthful, especially when Mr. Windychew pulls off those sunglasses. I mean, this dude is reading the house down, darling. Maybe I'm missing something, but I'm not really getting how people connected the elderly figure thing from the leaks to these two. Personally, I think it's a red herring, and these two Pikachu really are just your introduction to this game. But does that mean they'll talk? We've seen every game we get a little closer to Pokemon just straight up talking to us, and now we have the spin-off Pokopia that's been making waves. Technically, you are a Pokemon, which is why you can understand them, but again, in Scarlet and Violet, you can become a Pokemon with the Synchro Machine. So is it too far-fetched to think maybe there will be some kind of device that can translate Pokemon words? Or if they really are the legendaries, I mean, some legendary Pokemon can talk. There's no mention of Mr. Wavychew or Miss Windychew in any of this character descriptions, but they do definitely mention the hotel. Maybe the professor has been reworked, or the chairman itself is reworked into Mr. or Mrs. Wavychew. Again, the last generation did set up that humans can become Pokemon, so maybe Mr. and Mrs. Wavychew really are something in disguise, but I don't think they're the legendary Pokemon. Going back to the leaks though, there is a little more details about the legendary islands. Inside these clouds, islands are procedurally generated. Smaller islands serve as raid areas, mid-sized ones connect to other players, and a single large island is reserved for the legendary Pokemon. It doesn't specifically say whether that island is in the sky, and if you ask me, this cloud doesn't exactly look massive, so I don't think these are related to the legendaries, but could instead be related to raids, potentially. As it says here, smaller islands serve as raid areas. I mean, it's possible all of this has been scrapped in the final game, but many fans have pointed out this cloud as distinctly Gyarados shape. If there really are raids somehow in there, like you fly up to this island and it starts a raid encounter, maybe this is for a Gyarados raid. But moving on, I do want to talk about the regional gimmick, particularly this symbol we see on the Japanese logos for Winds and Waves. It very clearly resembles a sort of Pokeball. You can see the outer round circle and then the middle line and the little button that you press. But exactly what the symbol could represent is a little trickier to determine. First, I want to point out a potential connection I noticed while I was making this video. The cloud in the sky definitely looks like a similar shape, though obviously upside down. Even if you consider this as two distinct different shapes, which I don't think they are, but it's still vaguely like the same half circle shape. And actually the symbol itself does seem to bear somewhat of a resemblance to Omega, the final letter in the Greek alphabet. But the other obvious hint here is the rainbow glow around the whole thing. What exactly could rainbow represent here? I mean, rainbows overall are like a weird combination of water and air, because they're water droplets in the sky. So, winds and waves combine, you get a rainbow. Sometimes even a double rainbow all the way. And taking a look at the leaks regarding this region's new gimmick, Majin, which is a code name, doesn't mean that the final gimmick will be named Majin, but it does appear to be linked to weather-based moves or effects. Its exact mechanics remain unclear, but there are definitely some really cool fan ideas out there. I really like this idea in particular from Pablo Cuckoo Art. I think the idea is that every Pokemon would gain this sort of thing behind them, so that would be like the generic version of this form change, like Dynamaxing, but specific Pokemon can change into unique forms, like Gigantamax. In this case, Apostle Pikachu would have that weird amorphous shape that we saw earlier. And Pablo's idea for this gimmick actually comes from a couple of theories that have been floating around regarding the Gen 10 gimmick. And actually Apotheosis and the Apostles are part of this theory. I thought that was just made up by the artist. Now this is definitely just a theory. It says potential gimmick and lore. There's no source for it either, so I don't really know if I trust this one. But there is a similar post that came from 4chan that was actually posted on February 26th, so a day before the Pokemon Presents, which revealed Winds and Waves. And this leak actually said the starters are Dog, Bird, and Lizard. Same with Pokemon Champions not being available or shadow dropped on the 27th. And they actually have a whole bunch of leaks that I'm gonna crop out because I don't want to talk about too much spoilers in this video. But the one that interests me here is a rebirth, where once a Pokemon faints, it can be revived with an Omni Boost, similar to the trial bosses of Sun and Moon. It is an item-based mechanic, so they need to hold an item, kind of like Mega Evolution. Once they rebirth, they cannot switch out. Some Pokemon have special forms, which are called reborn forms. Now, considering this leak came out right before the Pokemon Presents, and it did get those top two things right, there could be a little more validity to this one because it's more recent. This kind of looks like something Pokemon would actually do. These leaks are from 2021, so it's possible they completely scrapped the Majin gimmick and it's now going to be this new rebirth gimmick. Because going back to this symbol, looks like Omega, and Omega means ending. What says ending more than death, the ultimate ending? Maybe this mechanic actually is rebirth, signifying that the end isn't actually the end, and through some sort of magical rainbow energy, your Pokemon can get revived. I could definitely see it because this is a gimmick that every Pokemon can make use of. It has an item-based mechanic, so it's like Mega Evolution. It has to hold something, and there's a drawback to it. Once rebirth, you cannot switch out, and some Pokemon will have special forms. Just like I mentioned, Gigantamaxing and Terastallization, there weren't as many special forms, but we did eventually get the special Ogerpon and Terrapagos. So I could definitely see it fitting with this Majin system. The 5 ones that are mentioned here, maybe these are the ones that get the special rebirth forms. But to wrap this video up, I want to talk about one more theory that's sort of related to everything we've been talking about so far. The introduction of a new type. This resurfaces pretty much with every new Pokemon generation. I think Light type has been the most popular for the longest time, but that sort of ended up becoming Fairy type in a weird way. Actually, no, Fairy is way different than Light, so I could totally still see them introducing a Light type. And in fact, what are rainbows if not light? I highly doubt that the new gimmick will introduce Light type. We thought the same thing with Terastallization, and technically we did end up getting Terrastal type. But another very popular one I've seen pretty much since the dawn of Pokemon theories is Sound type. There are a lot of Pokemon that would fit Sound type, and a lot of moves too. They're typically categorized as normal type moves. They had us going there for a little bit when they introduced this new Rotom form in Pokemon Pokopia. And in the trailer, they didn't reveal its type, but now that Pokopia is actually out and people have gotten to meet Rotom Stereo, it is in fact electric and normal. Kind of disappointing, to be honest. I think it would have been a really cool way to introduce a new type, but like I mentioned, sound-based moves are typically normal types, so makes sense for it to be normal type, and I wouldn't be surprised if Rotom Stereo does appear in a future game, that its special move is going to be Boom Burst. All the other regional variants in Pokopia, if you can even call them that, remain the exact same type as their regular counterpart, which again is kind of lame. Like, this Moxlass definitely should have been normal and grass. That would have been really cool, especially if they do decide to put them in a mainline game in the future as convergent or regional forms. So for now, the theory of sound type coming is dead. And along with it, maybe also a new potential evolution, because that's actually the one I wanted to wrap this video up. So many people seem to be thinking that a new evolution will be introduced in Winds and Waves, and honestly, it's long overdue. We haven't had a new evolution since Sylveon back in X and Y. Feels like they would only introduce a new Eevee if they introduced a new type. And again, the opportunity to introduce sound was right there, especially with a game called Pokémon Waves. You know, sound waves, they travel through the winds. But there were rumors, or actually I think it might have been leaked, that there was going to be a flying type evolution at one point planned for Pokemon Sun and Moon that eventually got scrapped because I guess they couldn't come up with an idea that was different enough from all the tons of fan art that there is of flying type evolutions. I think that whole excuse is kind of BS now anyway, because they've definitely made some Pokemon that look like Fakemon. I mean, there's a few theories about Pom Bomb evolving into an exploding dog, which is exactly what this monster from Cassette Beast is, even down to its name, Pom Bomb, being almost the exact same. Point with all of this being that maybe Winds and Waves is finally when the flying type evolution returns. With these games being so much like Alola or Pokemon Sun and Moon when this new evolution was supposed to come out, now seems like the perfect time to bring it back as a flying type evolution too. With the game Winds, we already have Vaporeon for Waves, of course, so we can't really introduce another water evolution, but a Winds one would be pretty sick. So let me know what you think of these theories. Do you believe any of them might come true? If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more Pokemon Winds and Waves news and theories. I will of course be breaking down whenever the next trailer comes out and doing a couple more theories. Specifically, the next one will be about the region's map, and I also still got to work on my starter evolutions theory video, what I think they're going to be evolving into. So plenty of Winds and Waves content coming to the channel, and of course I've also been streaming Pokopia, so if you want to know when I go live next, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.